Our next speaker is Sue Vang, Policy Analyst for Californians Against Waste, and she's going to be giving us an update on SB 270, the bag ban referendum. Sue?
Thanks, Laura, and good morning, everyone. Can you guys hear me okay? Let's see. So I'm here today to talk about the SB 270 bag ban referendum. SB 270 was the state bill that CAW sponsored last year, was the first statewide plastic bag ban adopted by any state legislature. Briefly, I'll just give an update, background on CAW, and then provide some of the background on bag bans and the local and statewide movement leading up to last year before delving into the referendum. So CAW, for those of you who aren't familiar with us, we're based in Sacramento, California. We're a pretty small office, about 8 people right now, and our mission is to reduce resources and waste and pollution through policies focused on waste reduction and recycling. In some circles, we're known for banning problem products. I won't really go too much into these next slides on why we ban plastic bags. I feel like I'm preaching to the choir here, but there are obvious environmental impacts related to plastic bag pollution, as well as economic costs. A lot of the general public aren't making the connection in terms of cleanup costs and the impact to waste reduction, waste management, and recycling facilities. So we do try to highlight that in our advocacy efforts. To date, we have 109 local ordinances in the state of California covering 138 jurisdictions, about 37% of the population. And there is a larger movement worldwide as well. So California wasn't the first, definitely won't be the last. And these local ordinances, when I first started at CAW, there were about 9. Again, we're at 109 now, and they are showing over the years success rates. So this is just a prime example of some of the great results that we are getting with local ordinances here in California. San Francisco being the first in the nation showing results of litter reduction, and then LA County reporting 95% reduction of all single-use bags with their plastic bag ban and 10-cent charge on paper bag model. Some of the efforts from the industry have been to try and delay these local bag ordinances through litigation threats, varying from using the California Environmental Quality Act to Prop 26. As you can see on the bottom of the slides, though, they haven't been very successful. In the last few years, we've been seeing more and more successes. One of the most visible ones was the city of Manhattan Beach winning in the state Supreme Court. And then moving on to the state level, in the last few years, we've had 4 other efforts to try and ban plastic bags at the statewide level. AB 1998 was the first by Assemblymember Brownlee. That one fell, I believe, 7 votes short of passage. There were several other measures afterwards. In 2012, SB 405 fell 3 votes short. That's Senator Padilla in the middle there who authored that measure. We were really close. As you can see, each time we got closer. And then last year we were successful with SB 270, authored again by Senator Padilla with co-authors Senator De Leon and Laura. It was an uphill battle. There was a lot of industry opposition, of course. And I'll go back a slide here. Oh, maybe I can't. Oh, there we go. The industry obviously pushes back each time. They spent quite a lot of money lobbying against these kinds of bills. With AB 1998, which was the first, they spent a large sum in just the last quarter of the legislative session. So they did the same with SB 270. There was a lot of negative media focusing on Senator Padilla, focusing on the grocers who have since started supporting these measures. after seeing a patchwork of all the different local ordinances, they started working towards a uniform statewide solution. So it was passed in August, and Governor Brown enacted it into law on September 30th. But that same day, and not surprisingly, the industry filed a petition to repeal it under a statewide referendum effort. They spent over $3 million so far to gather signatures and to put it to a public vote. If you look at the amount of money that's been spent, this is records from the Secretary of State website. 98% is from out-of-state interests, more than half from one particular company, Hilux Poly, formerly Hilux Poly, called Novalex now, which is one of the largest single-use plastic bag manufacturers in the nation, and they're based in South Carolina. So the industry needed just under 505,000 signatures to qualify their petition, and they turned in almost 809,000. They were supposed to collect all of those by the end of the year, and then the Secretary of State had to certify and see if those signatures were actually valid. That was done at the end of February. So since then, it has been qualified, and what that means is that SB 270, which would have been implemented starting July 1st of this year in larger grocery stores, is now suspended. And it also means that November 2016, SB 270 will be put on the ballot. It'll be at the very end of the ballot, and what we will be asking supporters is to vote yes for it. That would uphold the state law. We are expecting that the industry will continue to spend large amounts of money, between 30 to 50 million in the next year and a half, to sway voters to vote no. This is just, in terms of when they were gathering signatures, the industry has been known to use very fraudulent tactics. This is an example of a Craigslist ad when they were trying to get folks to be signature gatherers. They basically were, paid $1.50 to $2.50 per signature, and this Craigslist ad in particular was telling the person that they could tell people whatever they wanted as long as they could get a signature. So we heard reports, particularly in the Bay Area, where folks are familiar with plastic bag bans and are supportive, that signature gatherers were telling them, sign this petition if you support a statewide bag ban. So we did file a complaint with the Secretary of State and Attorney General's office, and there were stories. This is definitely a hot topic in the media. First, when it was when the bag ban was passed, we saw news across the world. There were many movements across the globe, just based on what we started in California. And then when the referendum action was qualified, that also made news, and so it's definitely something that we've seen quite a bit in the news. In terms of what we're doing to push back against the industry, is that we did form a coalition called the California versus Big Plastic campaign. There are several major environmental groups that are steering committee members, COW is included, and we are working with folks who've worked on successful campaigns to try and be successful in November of 2016. In terms of our next steps, thank you. In terms of our next steps, we are, working to get folks to vote yes in November 2016, but because that is a bit of a distance away, right now we're focusing on a local bag ban movement. We are trying to get more local bag bans passed in the interim, since SB 270 is now suspended. The bill had a grandfathering exemption for existing local ordinances, but preempted new ordinances. Again, the grocers wanted uniformity as we progressed forward. So the local ordinances were preempted after a certain date, and that has been lifted, and local governments can move forward in the next year and a half if they wish to. So that's something that we are pushing. We are seeing movement from the city of Sacramento, who will be considering a plastic bag ban as early as next week. San Diego has, the city council in San Diego is actually meeting today to discuss what they're doing in terms of next steps. So we're seeing large cities and smaller cities statewide that are considering moving forward now. And just to close up, part of why that strategy is that we did some polling, and we found that if you're familiar with a plastic bag ban, you're more likely to support plastic bag ban because it's not this unknown entity or unknown practice for you. In general, the majority of Californians do support plastic bag bans, more than 60%. In several of the polls that we've looked at, we know the public does support, but we also know that the support is increased if you're already familiar with living in a jurisdiction that has a plastic bag ban. The bottom graph here actually does break down by party affiliation, and even Republicans are more likely to support if they live in a plastic bag ban versus living in a community that doesn't have one. So that's part of our strategy moving forward, is to increase the local bag ban movement and thereby increase the support for bag bans as well moving into 2016. And so we are, definitely looking for more supporters. If you're an organization working on plastic bag bans, feel free to reach out, and we'll try to assist as we can. Obviously, the campaign is looking for financial supporters, and we're just looking for folks who are also, local officials who can endorse a campaign. The more visible we are and the more supporters we have, the better our chances are moving into the general elections. Thank you.
We have time for one quick question.
Yeah, is there any attention to the reusable bag exemption in the state law? It seems to me that this is a very negative effect on I collect these bags all over Oakland and Berkeley on the ground. You may call them reusable, but people don't treat them like reusable. They treat them like disposables. There's a very great weakness in the state law. Can you comment on that?
I can certainly comment on it. So the state law and several of the local ordinances do include at least a minimum 10% charge on reusable bags and paper bags. And we do see at the local level, at least since the state bill hasn't been implemented, that this certainly is changing behavior, disincentivizing that single bag use attitude. So even if they are a thicker plastic bag, they are certified to be withstand at least 125 uses. And in terms of the switch from going to single-use plastic and single-use paper to that thicker reusable plastic and single-use paper, we've seen definite decrease. And then if you look on our website, we have reports, and I had some information from the local ordinances, but if you look specifically at the Mountain View report, they did analyze the before and after in terms of that category of bags, and there was an overall reduction of use. Thanks.
Great, thank you. Thank you.